More details are emerging on the U.S. China trade deal, as well as other potential agreements happening this week. Joining us now, United States Trade Representative, Ambassador Jamieson Greer. Mr. Ambassador, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. How was your weekend? Anything going on? Do anything interesting recently?
I had a nice little tour of Switzerland and had a lot of delicious chocolate, among other things.
Wow.
You can't avoid the...
They have some good chocolate there, don't they?
Yeah. We had Secretary Besson on yesterday, and I just asked him about the tone initially. He seemed to think that it was, whether it was the venue or whatever, that it was very cordial and conciliatory. You describe it the same way?
Yes, I agree with that description. As the Secretary mentioned, and as I've mentioned, there was a lot of lead-up work to these events, so by the time we got there, both sides were ready to deal. The Swiss hosted us in a way that we were able to get to brass tacks really quickly and come to an agreement.
A lot of work remains, obviously, and I'm ready to look at this totally half full, but not everyone is taking that viewpoint. We're hearing the sort of the same tired, you start a fire as an arson, and then the arsonist puts it out, that it didn't need to be done this way. The tariffs were put in too quickly and without enough thought, and now you taking them off is not a victory. Is there anything to that? I mean, there are things that need to be done over the next 90 days where we would say this was absolutely amazing for what the United States got out of the negotiations. That still remains to be seen, does it not?
That's exactly right. I mean, we're really involved in a two-step process here with China, and frankly with a lot of other countries as well. You'll recall when the president imposed his reciprocal tariffs on April 2nd, including on China, he very quickly moved to a pause on reciprocal tariffs with countries who were negotiating with us, and those countries were able to go to a 10% rate during that pause. China was the only one that retaliated. And then, they escalated very quickly. We escalated to match it, and they decided that they actually did want to talk to us and come to the table. So we went down to a 10% and a pause of 90 days to talk to them. I mean, this is the plan, and it's working, and now China's part of that plan.
Trying to figure out how to bring down the non-tariff barriers seems like that could take 90 days just trying to do that. And I didn't ask Secretary Besson, I meant to. But we didn't have time. Any mention of the theft of IP over the years in China, and that's unacceptable. Dumping. There's a lot. We have a lot of beefs with China at this point.
That's exactly right. And I'm a veteran of some of these disputes from the past, and many of them are ongoing. The focus of this agreement and the talks over the weekend were really to address the current escalated situation, which was tantamount to an embargo, which was not sustainable for either side. So we're able to get to a position where the United States still has substantial tariffs on China. China retains some, not nearly as much as we did, but we're in a position where we can actually talk. We can do it constructively. And to your point, taking down non-tariff barriers, of which there are many. China's the largest challenge by far on that front. That will take time. But the Chinese, they want to talk about it, we want to talk about it, and we'll see where that leads.
The threat of 30% tariffs in 90 days, is that enough to ensure that the Chinese will continue to cooperate?
Well, there's a mutual interest in doing this. I think everyone saw the reports over the past couple of weeks about Chinese export orders going down, Chinese factories idling, and in fact, other factories and facilities in China going for lease, and people temporarily laying off workers in China. So it's a challenging situation for them. And of course, we don't want to have an embargo with China. So there was mutual interest in getting to a place where we could have some kind of trade with them that made sense for both parties while still protecting the United States, retaining our reciprocal tariffs and the leverage that we need to potentially get some very good outcomes in the future.
Ambassador, one of the things that I imagine is going to come up is, India obviously is hoping to make a deal. Japan is hoping to make a deal. Others are hoping to make deals, and hoping to make deals that are going to inure to their benefit, meaning against China in many ways. In terms of the timing of all of this, do you anticipate that you will see a bevy of deals before you ultimately continue even negotiating with China? How is that going to work, just from a brass tacks standpoint?
Well, all of this is happening in parallel. So after I do these TV hits this morning, I'm going for my standing call with the Indian Commerce Minister, who's my counterpart on trade matters. Then this afternoon, I'm flying to Korea to meet with the Korean Trade Minister over the next coming days, as well as trade ministers from many other Asian countries who are gathering for APEC meetings. So all of this is happening in parallel, and we are happy to move as quickly as other parties are willing to move. Everyone saw the UK move very quickly. In Switzerland, in between all the meetings with the Chinese, I met with the Swiss president. They want to accelerate things. So we're moving as quickly as we possibly can with folks who want to be ambitious.
Ultimately, though, do you think a minimum 10% tariff almost across the board everywhere is something that the American public should expect to understand, and maybe our counterparts understand?
That's exactly right. The president campaigned on this. He campaigned on a 10% global tariff and somewhat higher tariffs on China. And frankly, that's about where we are right now. So that's one promise fulfilled. But that doesn't mean that we can't find ways to accommodate supply chains with us and trusted partners. You can see from the UK deal, there were critical things related to automotive and discussions about pharmaceuticals and semiconductors. We just want to make sure we have secure supply chains. We get as much production back home as possible. And having a 10% global tariff, that's going to help reduce the trade deficit, which is the primary driver of the whole program, but also reshore and create fair trading conditions with our partners overseas.
This may be a nuanced point, but when you talk to economists, they often say that the 10% alone isn't necessarily what would get American companies to reshore back home, but it is, depending on what the tariffs are on other countries, potentially an incentive for people to move around some of their supply chains to maybe even double up or triple up where they're doing things in different countries, which may ultimately be a benefit to the U.S. in terms of just having a greater diversity of where these things are being made. Is that a win for the American people, and how would you articulate that if it is?
Well, first of all, that is a win to be able to diversify supply chains, so we're not reliant on any one foreign party for critical goods or sectors. I would say, to your point, that is 10% enough? I mean, I think a global 10% tariff is a strong incentive. And also, we're hoping that Congress does its job with the tax bill to get expensing and some of these other things. We see the price of oil coming down. We have more competitive energy policy now. I think once we land the tax bill, we're going to have a very, very competitive economic footprint here in the United States. It's going to attract investment.
I think in the past, Ambassador, that fentanyl, we've had promises. And I think back to the trade agreement negotiated by President Trump in his first term. I don't know whether it was the pandemic or what, but it was not enforced by the Biden administration. None of those agreements came true. Could that happen again with fentanyl? What's the enforcement, or what do you hope to agree on with fentanyl, and how would it be enforced?
Well, with fentanyl, there are a variety of expectations that we would have for the Chinese. And essentially the outcome we're looking for is that neither fentanyl nor its precursors come to the United States from China, either through Mexico or Canada or directly here. We want Americans to stop dying from fentanyl. This is very much a trust but verify situation. We retained the full 20% tariffs related to fentanyl with respect to China as part of this agreement over the weekend. And so, we want to see real results. If we don't see results, then we have our enforcement tools that are still in place. But if we do see results, then, the president will consider whether we should have a different approach.
Ambassador, you're on this whirlwind tour, trying to meet with country after country and line up deals. How much of the focus of those deals are trying to make sure that you are bringing partners on your side in this positioning against China? We had Amos Hochstein here today from the last administration saying he thinks that's a big part of what's happening in the Middle East today. Is that true? And if that's the case, how much more complicated does that make your future negotiations with the Chinese?
Well, first of all, I would say the president's tariff program is a global program. The problem we're trying to solve for, at least on the trade side, is our enormous $1.2 trillion trade deficit in goods that we inherited from the Biden administration. That's what we're solving for. Now, China happens to be the largest part of that problem. We have a huge trade deficit with the European Union, a big trade deficit with Japan, one of our strongest allies. So we're dealing with all of these countries in an effort to get the deficit down, or at least create conditions that will lead to that. And the other countries understand that. When it comes to sectoral tariffs that we see coming out of the Commerce Department, steel, aluminum, autos, pharmaceuticals, that is something where we want to make sure we have U.S. production, where allies and friends can be helpful. We welcome that. But ultimately, this is not about encircling China or anything like that. It's about making America more competitive, making our supply chains more resilient, getting domestic production here, and getting the trade deficit down over time.
It's hard. It's hard work. Someone once said that. I think it was W. But it's hard. It's hard work. For example, will there be an actual announcement of a trade deal with India, or will it be another pause on tariffs while we work for 90 days to try to get some, or, not just India. Take, for example, any of the other countries that we're trying to get deals with. Can we do actual deals? Is there enough time, enough manpower, to be man and woman power enough to put those together? Or is it going to be 90-day pauses?
So yes, we can do this. We are doing this. As you know, we announced an agreement in principle with the UK last week. With a lot of details announced and a lot of details to come. My agency, the Office of the United States Trade Representative, has 250 people, very skilled trade negotiators who have been around for years and decades. We leverage the workforce at the Commerce Department, State Department, Energy Department, all over the government to get these through. So as we work through this, you're going to see, when the time is right, agreements in principle or announcements of a deal. When that's ripe, and then it'll take some weeks to paper over some of these things to get a final agreement in place. But we're moving very quickly. We've already seen success with the UK, and everyone else is on a pause right now while we're negotiating with them.
Are you getting sleep, Ambassador? I mean, what do you say? It's important. We know on this show. Are you getting 5 hours? What are you getting?
That is 4 to 5 hours is probably right.
It's not enough. That's not enough. That's not enough.
Well, you sound like my mom, kind of lecturing me on this. I mean, listen, we are very operational right now, and we are in the thick of it. And if we can get this done, get it done quickly, get global trade on the right path, we're going to be in a much better position going forward for decades to come.
We know you got to run. Maybe you can take a nap between whatever you're doing. That happens to me, and I don't even try to do it now, Jamieson.
The planes that he takes, by the way, maybe they'll have a new plane soon. But
maybe
he's not going to. I don't know. He's not going to be on that plane. So I don't know. Do you get? Is there a flatbed situation? How's this going to work?
You get a pod, or you got a Bernie plane, like a G650.
Oh, when I go on the planes, well, sometimes I fly on a military plane. Sometimes I fly commercially, and frankly, often I am preparing my briefing. I'm reading my briefing materials during that time, so that when I can land, I can go right into the meetings and knock out the work.
All right. We'll send you some of them socks I need to wear now. On the plane. You seen those? Yeah.
Compression socks.
Old people. Yeah. I don't. I'm kidding. Ambassador, I know you got to go, but we digress. We appreciate your time this morning. Hope to see you again for updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great one.